consensus that bento videos are the favorite on this channel, so here's another one. This one is for the video game The World Ends With You, aka Subarashiki Kono Sekai. This bento is a birthday gift for a friend. It's a blue set similar to the pink and brown set I used for the Choco Cat bento tutorial. Except this one has little mochi bunnies on it! It has 2 layers and came with all the little dividers as well as matching food cups. Also chopsticks and a strap, and a matching bag to tie it all up in. Also, since this lunch is for a friend and I'm not eating it, you'll see 2 non-vegan things go into it, but don't worry, I will give you vegan replacements when we get there. We'll start with the bottom, which is based on Tin Pin Slammer, and first we're going to make vegan meatballs. Get yourself a can of black beans and a fork or a potato masher and smush them up. Now you can either use 2 cans of beans, or add some vegan ground beef like I am here, or you can use 2 packages of ground beef. Whatever you decide, break it up and take your new kitchen assistant, Mr. Piggy, and give it a good mix. Here's a chopped up onion, as well as a few minced cloves of garlic. Mix those in too. Now we add the spices. Get a separate bowl. Measure out 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and add 2 tablespoons of water. Give it a light whisk. Next, 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, half a tablespoon of Chinese 5-spice powder, and a teaspoon of cumin, and give it another quick whisk. Add your pasty mixture to your vegan meat mixture and have your cooking assistant stir it up. Also, don't forget to add salt and pepper to taste. Then, a quarter of a cup of flour, as well as a quarter of a cup of breadcrumbs. After that, for a little more zing, I put in a quarter of a cup of salsa, since it happened to be in the fridge. Give it a final mix, and you are ready for baking. Grease a pan, and here I'm using a tablespoon of olive oil and paper towel to spread it. Then make balls. I measured the first one and be sure it would fit in the bento, and then just made the rest that size. Altogether, I ended up with 9 meatballs, and I also made 5 patties for vegan burgers later. Then, when your oven reaches 350 degrees, pop all of it in and let it bake until the outsides are firm and crispy. It took me about 30 to 40 minutes or so. While that's baking, let's start on the fruit. We're making the confused stars that your pins get when they're attacked and stunned. They're green and yellow, so I took kiwi and pineapple. I cut the kiwi into coins, and then I used my star-shaped food cutter to make green stars. Moving on to the pineapple, this failed spectacularly. I would definitely suggest using some other yellowish fruit like mango or peaches or papaya or something, because the pineapple basically just split apart along the fibers when I tried to get stars out of it. I eventually took a knife and cut around the star shape, and this one you see here is the best looking one I got. The rest were mostly blobs, but I used them anyway, so whatever. Next, salt some water and pull up an apple because we're making an arrow. The red arrow when you move your pin, to be exact. Cut a wedge from your apple and flatten off the bottom. Then, score the point of the arrow at one end and a straight line across the bottom of it. In from the sides a little bit, score another point for the back end of the arrow. Then peel away the edges and you have your arrow. Put it in your salt water and let it soak there for a little while to keep it from oxidizing. Back to the meatballs. When they're done, take 2 of them. These are for the 2 special moves when your pin is covered in spikes and when it becomes a meteor and falls. First, we're going to chop up some garlic, so get a clove, take the paper skin off, and cut it into jagged, irregular shapes. You can pan fry these really quick if you want to. I didn't, but either way, jam these suckers into one of your meatballs for your spikes. Put that into one of your food cups. For the meteor, take a tomato and cut off one side. Clean out the seeds from the middle and cut zigzags into what's left. Then cut the piece in half and line the edges of the food cup to look like fire. Put your second meatball in the center. Take some pasta sauce or salsa, or even ketchup would work fine, and make lines like molten cracks in your meteor. Then the bottom is done! Now for the top. Fill 2/3 of the top with rice for Neku's face. For Mr. Mew, or as Neku calls him, Piggy, take saran wrap and a mound of rice. This is the first non-vegan thing you'll see in this bento. This is real tuna fish I'm using as filling. However, head over to my Hello Kitty bento to see a recipe for vegan tuna as an alternative. I'll put a link in the description. Again, that's what I would be using if I was going to eat this bento. Cover up your filling of choice with a little more rice, and it helps to wet your fingers to keep it from sticking to you. Then twist the saran wrap to form it into a ball. Be sure to make sure it'll fit into your bento. After that, take some nori and wrap the rice ball in it. Trim off the excess and use a little bit of your water to tuck in and seal the edges. Here I use the same white vegan cheese I always do with an oval food cutter to make Mr. Mew's eyes. Then, cut a sort of mushroomy shape for his nose and he's all set. For Neku's face, again, for a full vegan bento, I would use these Deli Smart bologna style slices. However, this will be the second non-vegan thing you'll see here, smoked salmon. I'm including it in this friend's bento because she's not vegan and smoked salmon is one of her favorites. Anyway, whatever you're using, you can actually cut it to cover all of your rice. I'm cutting it into a face shape here because I wasn't exactly sure how the rest was going to go when I started this. Either way, next you'll need a carrot and a peeler. Peel a bunch of strips from the carrot, and then overlap them into jagged little points to make Neku's hair and bangs. After that, get a head of purple cabbage and cut part off of one of the leaves. Measure and cut it so it goes across the bottom of Neku's face for the collar of his shirt. Then, take another piece of cabbage for part of Neku's headphones and put it on one side of his head. Next, I cut a bunch of thin strips of nori to outline Neku's hair because I wanted more contrast between his face and his bangs. Take your white cheese and cut 2 small trapezoids from it for Neku's eyes, and then outline those trapezoids with more pieces of nori. Also, angry eyebrows, since for the majority of the game Neku is pretty grumpy. Finally, I added these music note food pics for a little more interest, and this bento is done. Now, if you're not going to eat this within a few hours, you'll want to cover this rice when you're done with your decorations with a layer of saran wrap to keep it from drying out while it sits in the fridge. This was going directly to my friend for lunch, so I didn't need to do that part. Anyway, I hope you like this bento and stay tuned next week for more fun stuff. Please like, rate, comment, and subscribe. I promise you won't be disappointed. And as always, remember, there's no use boiling your cabbage twice.